All right, let's dive right into this explainer, guys. We're looking at a pretty fascinating paradox today. Why is it that current AI hits this massive concrete wall when it comes to advanced, expert-level science? Today, we're unpacking something called SciResearcher. It's this genuinely groundbreaking new framework it's pretty much a paradigm shift in how we train AI to actually think, literally think, like a cutting-edge scientist.
So we're going to map this whole thing out in 4 quick steps. First, we'll look at the frontier science gap, then the shape of knowledge, dive into how SciResearcher actually works, and finally, look at how it's breaking benchmark records.
Starting right off with Section 1, the frontier science gap. It's honestly such a crazy paradox, right? I mean, your average AI can master general trivia, pass the bar exam, and write a beautiful sonnet in literally seconds. But throw advanced biochemistry at it, and it fails spectacularly. It just completely stumbles. And the reason is that deep scientific problem-solving takes complex computation. It requires long-horizon task execution and a level of deep reasoning that goes way, way beyond just recalling facts. An AI assistant can easily tell you what a cell is, sure, but if you ask it to calculate a tumor's volume based on a super-specific chemotherapy schedule, it totally loses the plot. Bridging this gap, though, that is absolutely crucial. It's the key to unlocking our next major medical and tech breakthroughs.
Which brings us to Section 2, the shape of knowledge.
This perfectly illustrates the root of the problem. Think about general knowledge. It's very hub-centered. It's kind of like a neatly organized, densely linked Wikipedia library, right? If an AI wants to learn about, say, a famous celebrity, all the information links straight back to one central page. Easy. But frontier science, that is a messy desk. It's incredibly sparsely distributed and weakly linked. You might have a highly specific data set over here, some obscure clinical effect over there, and crucial supplementary material just hidden away in the appendix of a random academic paper somewhere else. There's just no central Wikipedia page for cutting-edge, highly context-dependent genetic mutations. You really have to dig for it.
So how do we fix that? Let's move to Section 3, how SciResearcher works. Enter SciResearcher. You can think of this thing as a fully automated training dojo for AI. Seriously, instead of humans painstakingly writing out thousands of insanely complex science questions to train these models, SciResearcher actually uses web agents to go out, browse academic sources, gather evidence, and automatically synthesize its very own incredibly difficult training tasks. It essentially builds a rigorous, self-contained training curriculum that targets 2 very specific things: conceptual understanding and computational reasoning.
So it pulls this off using 2 distinct pipelines. Let's look at the conceptual pipeline first. The AI starts off with what they call a scout search. Basically, it goes hunting for relevant academic papers based on a seed scientific entity. Then it extracts verifiable evidence to form a base question. But here's the absolute genius part of this whole thing: anchor augmentation. The system grabs a key piece of the question, an anchor, and then recursively searches the web for even more academic papers specifically about that anchor. It fuses all this new info back together, taking a pretty simple question and transforming it into this complex, multi-hop puzzle that requires evidence from a bunch of independent sources.
I mean, just look at this actual question it generated. It weaves together the downstream effects of a specific vitamin deficiency with the binding properties of an IGF-BP family member in hepatic fibrosis. That is incredibly dense. And the answer it demands? It isn't just a simple summary. No, it is hyper-precise. It wants ASN 29 with a binding energy of exactly -4.3 kilocalories per mole. This perfectly shows you just how advanced, how nuanced, and how ridiculously specific the AI's self-generated training data has become. It's literally forcing itself to think exactly like a highly specialized researcher.
But hey, we all know science isn't just concepts, right? It's math too. So the second pipeline is entirely computational. In this one, the agent literally has to scour the web to identify advanced computational models, extract their governing equations, and then curate a realistic background scenario with all the proper input parameters. And to make sure that the question it just generated actually has a solvable, correct answer, get this: the system samples 5 different Python solvers to execute the math. It then uses majority voting among those generated codes to verify the final answer. It's wild. It is essentially writing its own advanced calculus and biology exams and then building the answer key from scratch.
And that brings us to our final section, Section 4, breaking benchmark records. Now, the results here are hard and undeniable. On the incredibly grueling HLE Gold benchmark, which, by the way, is an expert-verified subset of humanity's last exam, our agent, SciResearcher 8B, hits 19.46% accuracy. Now, I know what you're thinking. 19% sounds terrible in a standard classroom.
But in the highly complex realm of frontier science AI, this is massive. It establishes a brand new state-of-the-art for a model of its size, completely dwarfing other proprietary agents and getting really close to the performance of massive, closed-source systems like OpenAI's deep research.
And look, this success isn't just a fluke isolated to one test. When we look at other famously difficult exams, like Super GPQA Hard Biology and the Therapeutic Literature Benchmark TRQIA, we are seeing massive absolute leaps. We're talking about 13 to almost 15% absolute performance gains across the board. This really proves that training on this self-curated, highly complex data universally elevates the AI's ability to reason its way through incredibly advanced scientific literature.
I want you to notice this specific number right here, 2.7x. This represents the maximum increase in the agent's trajectory lengths after going through this training. And what does trajectory length actually mean for us? Well, it essentially means the AI is literally learning how to think longer. Instead of just spitting out an immediate guess, it's actually learned to sustain multi-step exploration. It uses external tools way more frequently, and it persistently digs through information until the problem is actually solved.
Brilliantly, the researchers found that by adding reinforcement learning to the training mix, the agent develops this really cool adaptive effect. When it's faced with the absolute hardest benchmark questions, the reinforcement learning checkpoint automatically allocates far more steps and tool calls to get the job done. But on the relatively easier stuff, it uses fewer steps while still keeping its accuracy super high. So it's not just working harder, it's working smarter. It's actually adapting its effort based on the specific complexity of the scientific problem it's looking at.
So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder today. If artificial intelligence can now autonomously scour scattered, complex academic papers just to build its own rigorous training grounds for frontier science, what incredibly complex scientific breakthrough will it be equipped to solve next? We are quite literally watching the automation of scientific reasoning unfold in real time. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, guys, and as always, keep questioning the frontier.